Thousands of years ago, the discovery of fire changed our ancestors' lives forever.
2, unité, top, décollage.
Now, combustion supports us in all fields across the world. Still, we struggle to control its spread, be it on land or when it explodes out of the Earth's guts. From space, it makes for a spectacular show. But here on the ground, it's a fight for survival. This is the story of those trying to protect us and our planet from the flames, and how space is lending a helping hand.
My name is François Perret-Crestov, and I've been a French firefighter for 7 years. This is one of the 21 watchtowers we have in Gironde. To be able to watch all the horizon and to identify all the smokes that we have, so we can organize the operational response for all the forest fires. You have to imagine that this place was only 1 year ago a huge pine forest. And in only one night, all the 60 square kilometers of forest were destroyed, and you can see that now it's only an empty space.
Summer 2022. A series of gigantic wildfires rage across the Gironde region in southwest France. More than 3,000 firefighters are called to save the iconic pine trees in this coastal region. But the extreme heat and dry conditions make it an incredibly challenging task.
And for our guys on the field, it was really difficult to fight 40 meters high flames, and we had to defend a lot of houses because the speed of the fire was really incredible. One strong moment I remember from this season was during the night. We got the objective from the commander to stop the fire on a big road. Big roads are really a positive point to stop the fire because it's an empty place with no trees. So usually it's something positive. But at this moment, I placed about 20 trucks with all the teams, and I asked them to wait until the last moment to open the hose, the fire hose. And so what I expected from this action was to calm down the fire, but instead I only saw it jump over the trucks, jump over my teams, and starting again about 40 or 50 meters behind.
Ça y est, il saute.
When you face such situations, I have to admit that there are momentum of doubt. We never faced such a forest fire before. But you have to think bigger and to remobilize everyone to fight the fire in another place.
Satellite images like this one captured the plumes of smoke that engulfed the region. The scale of the fires is unprecedented. 50,000 people evacuated their homes while, in a first for France, foreign firefighters flew in to fight the flames. Fortunately, no one was killed, and the monster wildfires were finally tamed. But more than 30,000 hectares of forest were lost. The scars left on the ground will remain visible for many years to come. Of course, France was not the only country facing extreme temperatures. July 2022 was the hottest on record for Europe. Scorching heat sparked wildfires in this nature park near Salamanca in Spain, while firefighters worked hard in Portugal and Greece. And the pattern seems to be repeating itself globally. In Chile earlier this year, residents joined firefighters in extinguishing wildfires breaking out across multiple regions. While in June, New York's skies turned orange from the drifting smoke of Canada's burning forests, bringing inspiration to artists and air pollution to all. For Clement Abergel, a climate scientist at the European Space Agency, this might be the new norm of a warming planet.
The series of heatwaves we have experienced in Europe in 2022 is a clear sign of global warming linked to human activities. That's our emission of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. And when high temperatures are combined with low air humidity, low rainfall and dry vegetation, it increases the risk of wildfire outbreak in case there is a source of ignition. And with IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, predicting that heat waves in Europe are going to be more intense, more frequent and last longer, this could be a glimpse of our future climate.
Au pire, vous restez là et je vais faire un tour. Comme tu veux, je vais avec toi le temps que tu sors.
Better monitoring and therefore controlling extreme events like wildfires requires powerful tools. That's where space comes in.
To monitor fires and the risk associated, satellite Earth observation, such as those operated by ESA in the Copernicus program, are particularly useful. The monitoring of fire from space is based on two main principles. The first one consists in detecting the thermal anomaly linked to the burning of vegetation that will lead to an increase in temperature with respect to the surrounding area. And the second possibility is to monitor the changes in surface reflectance. That's the light emitted by the surface of the Earth that changes due to the scorching, the char of vegetation. Satellites permit to observe the Earth at global scale with high repetitivity and increased spatial resolution. They permit to take the pulse of our planet.
A year after the fires, the Gironde region is licking its wounds. With the highest sand dune in Europe on its coast, the famous dune of Pilar, this part of France has long been a tourist hotspot. But local cafes are still reeling from last year.
Alors les incendies de l'année dernière, évacuation dans la nuit du 12 au 13 juillet, saison terminée du coup suite aux incendies, impossibilité d'accéder à l'établissement, saison catastrophique. Hein. Et du coup pertes colossales et matérielles et financières. Et, là on vit un peu au jour le jour et on essaye de justement animer un peu les réseaux, de travailler sur le local, pour faire venir les gens, parce que la masse touristique effectivement n'est plus là aujourd'hui. Ça pourrait être mieux. Mais ça aurait pu être pire. On aurait pu brûler aussi.
While dealing with wildfires, command trucks like this one are used by firefighters to receive and dispatch information in the field.
On fait également du jalonnement flanc droit pour limiter la propagation. On a 5 unités qui sont positionnées dessus.
Part of this information now also comes from satellites. But this is fairly recent.
We've been using satellite data for about 5 years and it changed a lot of things. We save a lot of time because before having this type of maps, we had to ask all the information from the guys on the field. and we were not even sure that it was as precise as this type of data.
Now, firefighters receive daily satellite images thanks to Copernicus, a European program providing accurate and timely satellite data to its users.
Here, for example, it's Sentinel-2 data, and it gives us the real situation of the fire spread. So we can see on this map that we have a first fire that happened in July, and the other one was currently evolving in August. This type of data is important to set up different and really precise maps of the burnt area and the delimitation of the fire. This is really important for us because we also had in other data the different hotspots on the field that allowed us to set up our strategy to see which was the priorities to work on during the day. So this type of data was used every day during the briefings. Space opened new possibilities for forest firefighting, and I can barely imagine what could be possible in the future. For example, we could have all the data, but in real time and provide it to the field, and it would be crazy.
Row upon row. It's over the reef, there it's going over the reef. All along the coast, a very powerful wave.
The Pacific Ocean, early 2022. A local resident films as a tsunami crashes onto the main island of the Tonga archipelago.
Going into a very low line.
These waves are the first visible symptoms of a massive underwater volcano eruption that travelled as far as Australia and Japan, and even triggered an oil spill in Peru. This kind of fire also has an enormous destructive power. This is what the Tonga eruption looked like from space. It was one of the largest recorded on Earth in decades. Hazardous ash not only smothered the island nation, but a gigantic plume of volcanic material and water vapour also rose around 60 kilometres into the atmosphere. The eruption was so violent that it created a sonic boom that rippled around the world, twice. Fire that comes out of the bowels of the earth needs strict surveillance. The effects of the Tonga eruption even reached space. Air pilots know this all too well. In 2010, the Eyjafjallajökull volcano in Iceland wasn't spitting fire, as this reporter explains.
There's no lava flow now because of the depth of the glacier. The lava is still quite far down in the mountain.
But the quantity of ash caused enormous disruptions over Europe. Millions of air passengers were stranded as European countries closed their airspace to protect them from drifting clouds of ash. There were more than 1,500 active volcanoes on Earth, and approximately 800 million people live within 100 kilometres of one of them, close enough to be at serious risk in case of an eruption.
Oggi andiamo a fare un'attività di controllo, di manutenzione ordinaria alla nostra stazione di monitoraggio multiparametrica della Montagnola, che è una delle stazioni più antiche che abbiamo.
Mount Etna in Sicily, one of the most active volcanoes in the world, also one of the most studied. Stefano Branca is the head of the Etna Observatory, the institute in charge of monitoring the volcano and alerting the authorities in case of an eruption.
Morti sono zero, perché le eruzioni effusive non ne fanno morti. Hai tutto il tempo, le avvisaglie per scappare e poi la colata lavica avanza lentamente. Il problema principale del rischio di questo vulcano è legato all'impatto con le infrastrutture. Quindi lo sviluppo, diciamo, urbanistico che è iniziato dalla seconda metà del secolo scorso ha portato a un aumento enorme delle costruzioni fino praticamente a circa 600-700 metri di quota. Quindi questo sarà il problema da affrontare grossissimo il giorno in cui ci sarà un'eruzione a bassa quota, perché l'impatto avverrà, diciamo, all'interno di quest'area fortemente urbanizzata.
Lava from Mount Etna has already buried many constructions, their remnants on the sides of the road being humble reminders that nature usually wins.
During eruption, gas and ashes released by volcanoes can create a thick layer of aerosol particles that will absorb and scatter sunlight, reducing the amount of solar radiation that can reach the surface of the Earth. And by doing so, it can create a cooling effect on the short term. For example, it has been demonstrated that the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991 led to a cooling of 0.5 degrees Celsius over a 1-year period on the entire globe. Volcanoes also release vast amounts of carbon dioxide, methane and water vapor that can add on the long term to the global warming effect. But that really is human activities that dominate the risk of global warming.
Ciao ragazzi, come va?
Bene, tutto a posto.
Ok,
sopra,
complimenti.
abbiamo sistemato lo strumento.
Bene, a posto. Diciamo che l'idea era questa, perciò ora vediamo, ci facciamo sto giro e vediamo che si può.
Saliamo su, intanto andiamo a vedere lo stato della stazione, perché c'è stato un periodo di brutto tempo
vero, certo,
intenso.
Certo, intenso.
Molto intenso.
Certo.
Located just 2 kilometers away from the craters, the Montagnola station looks like any other mountain hut. But it contains a trove of technology inside. Radars, a gravimeter and cameras scan the craters 24 hours a day, providing real-time information on the volcano's activities.
La stazione della Montagnola, che è stata costruita inizio anni 90, dove è stato installato il primo sistema di videosorveglianza al mondo, quindi con le prime telecamere che osservavano e studiavano l'attività del vulcano.
Queste telecamere chiaramente non sono più le stesse del 93, lì avevamo una telecamera, quella che si usava per i matrimoni, si andava a fare le riprese durante i matrimoni. Adesso le nuove tecnologie ci permettono di utilizzare telecamere termiche ad alta risoluzione che riprendono in dettaglio l'attività eruttiva dell'Etna, in special modo quella del cratere di sud-est, che ha dato origine negli ultimi anni a attività parossistiche importanti.
But the station is particularly exposed. It was almost destroyed in a 2001 eruption and subsequently rebuilt. It now needs regular pampering.
Dopo il blackout di febbraio di circa un mese siamo venuti in questi giorni per ripristinare la stazione, quindi stiamo caricando adesso l'elio all'interno del gravimetro e siamo nella fase di raffreddamento.
Sì, si vede
infatti qua tutte le curve di raffreddamento dei vari punti all'interno.
Vabbè, l'importante è che abbiamo recuperato.
Sì, abbiamo recuperato lo strumento, la stazione, quindi nei prossimi giorni avremo i dati buoni, diciamo, già a Catania disponibili.
A posto, va bene, ok.
At the headquarters of the Etna Observatory, back down in Catania, data coming from the various stations scattered across the volcano come into a single room, the operations room. Gaetana is about to start her shift.
We have 2 people working here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They're looking at this data, checking if everything is okay. Looking at
Mancata acquisizione segnali sismici per noto shelter 1.
But things aren't always smooth sailing.
Mancata acquisizione segnali.
The seismograph has suddenly recorded a signal coming from afar.
Le nostre stazioni hanno registrato questo telesisma, dovrebbe essere il terremoto dell'Afghanistan.
The tremors of a deadly earthquake in Afghanistan, some 5,000 kilometers away, travelled as far as Sicily. Localizing these tremors and quantifying their magnitude is part of the job.
We collect a lot of data coming from different sensors around the volcanic areas and seismic activity areas in Sicily and south of Italy. We also look at the volcano. We have a network of thermal cameras and visual cameras looking at the Etna and Stromboli and also Volcano. Looking at visual camera, we can also see the evolution of the plume in case of explosive activity, and by using modeling and satellite data we can also see which direction the plume will take, and with this information some airport can decide to close or not.
Flights are regularly halted at Catania's airport because of the volcanic ash spewed onto its runways. Visual observations both from in-situ instruments and from satellites help local authorities decide on the best course of action to limit the risks.
Satellite has really improved the way we work with volcanoes because they provide an overview of the whole volcanic area, giving information about mapping the lava flows, for example, but also morphological changes and so on. Another example is provided by very high resolution optical satellite data, for which it's possible to combine different views of the same target and reconstruct the three-dimensional shape of the topography.
A few years ago, after a series of violent eruptions, something unusual happened. And it was only noticed thanks to detailed satellite imagery.
In July 2021, we found with this technique how the southeast crater became the new peak of the volcano. And so overcoming the northeast crater, that was the previous peak of Mount Etna for about 40 years.
The thick lava that flows down Mount Etna also needs to be carefully followed. Its trajectory could threaten urban areas and require evacuations. Here again, satellites are proving hugely valuable.
For example, with the Meteosat second generation, we could follow the thermal activity of a volcano, and looking at different scenes, we can see the evolution of the thermal activity that is related to how much lava is going out. And this is an important parameter for lava flow simulation. The use of satellite will increase for sure in the future. For example, now MTG, Meteosat third generation, will increase the spatial resolution but also the temporal resolution with respect to Meteosat second generation. So providing more accurate information about the thermal activity of the volcanoes.
While scientists keep an eye on the volcano from space, Mount Etna continues to offer a spectacular show.
Quindi a prescindere da tutti gli aspetti scientifici che abbiamo visto e tecnologici oggi sulle attività di monitoraggio e sorveglianza, io penso che l'aspetto più affascinante di questa storia, di questo vulcano, rimane il detto locale a montagna scassau, cioè in poche parole la montagna si è rotta, si è aperta e il magma dalle profondità risale in superficie e il fuoco viene a giorno con questi spettacoli di colori, di luci, di rumori che hanno affascinato generazioni di popolazioni che hanno vissuto questo territorio dagli ultimi 6.000 anni e io sono dei tanti ragazzi siciliani che è rimasto colpito da questo spettacolo.
"1,500 kilometers away, back in southwest France, the buzzword is recovery. This means protecting the trees that survived the fires. Almost half the state forest around the Dune of Pilar was destroyed last summer. The surviving trees are vulnerable and again at threat, not from the flames, but from tiny insects called the bark beetle.
Là, on va aller voir ces arbres-là.
Experts from the National Forest Office are on patrol to monitor the invasion.
Regarde, tu vois ça, au bout de la feuille, ben ça c'est de la sciure. Donc là on a un arbre qui a été scolité et qui est en train d'en mourir.
Donc en fait c'est la femelle qui pond ses œufs à l'intérieur de l'écorce. Et lorsque les insectes éclosent, ils mangent l'arbre de l'intérieur et il y a ces petits rejets dessus. Parce que le risque, en fait, c'est que quand c'est présent sur un arbre, ça se propage à d'autres arbres et qu'ensuite ça décime l'ensemble de la forêt.
Among the tools at their disposal, pheromone traps like this one allow foresters to monitor the spread of the bark beetle. They come here once a week to count the insects.
On a un petit nombre d'insectes, en gros 6 scolites, donc ça traduit pareil une semaine où les captures ne sont pas énormes. On a une semaine où dans la semaine on a capturé 238 insectes. On peut arriver à trouver des espèces qui sont parasites des scolites et quand on commence à voir arriver ces espèces-là, c'est le signe que l'activité, ce qu'on appelle le développement massif des scolites va diminuer.
Once the risk is subdued, plans for forest regeneration can be made, and that regeneration revolves around seeds.
En dehors des graines qu'apportent les arbres qui sont présents dans le milieu, nous, on fait des récoltes de graines ailleurs dans les forêts littorales. Ces graines, on les prépare et on va semer des graines en appui des graines naturelles. Et en fait, au bout de 3-4 ans, on fera une évaluation du niveau de réussite de la régénération naturelle et c'est à ce moment-là qu'on prendra la décision de faire de l'appui artificiel ou pas.
And for observing the natural regeneration of the forests, satellites also do come in handy.
Les satellites nous permettent donc, en complément des observations aériennes proches faites à l'aide des drones et des observations de terrain, de faire un suivi global de l'évolution de la régénération naturelle sur la forêt incendiée.
Back in the local forest office, tucked among the trees, Aurélien studies the latest maps. Using satellite data is part of the daily routine for foresters, be it for monitoring the long-term evolution of forests or the short-term crisis.
Donc les images sentinelles, grâce à leur grande précision, nous ont permis de caractériser l'incendie. D'une part, de faire un zonage des zones qui avaient été touchées par l'incendie et de les caractériser en termes de sévérité. Donc en fait, cette carte-là va plutôt être un constat post-incendie où on a l'état avant-après de la forêt. Et en fait, celle-là va plus traduire une évolution sur une période de, en général 2, 3, 4 mois, de l'évolution, comme je vous disais, de la réponse chlorophyllienne, c'est-à-dire à quelle vitesse la forêt reprend sa capacité végétative. Voilà, donc ça nous permet en fait de déterminer des zones où la forêt a été très touchée, où il va falloir intervenir en priorité pour couper les arbres morts et éventuellement penser à une régénération future, et des zones où la forêt était plus laissée tranquille et où on va pouvoir la laisser se développer d'elle-même.
Although forests are natural carbon stores, young trees do not absorb as much carbon dioxide as mature trees. Preserving existing forests is therefore an essential solution to climate change. For foresters, ultimately, it's about letting nature take over.
Nous, en tant que forestiers, ce qui s'est passé durant l'été 2022, c'est assez traumatisant. L'incendie, sur l'ensemble du massif de la Teste, a détruit plus de 7000 hectares. Donc effectivement, en tant que forestier, on vit mal ça. Mais en tant que forestier, on fait aussi confiance en l'avenir. Nous, cette forêt-là, on a envie de la régénérer. Donc on a conservé, parmi les bois, dans les zones qui ont été incinérées, on a exploité à peu près 2 tiers des bois. On a conservé 1 tiers des arbres qui sont encore vivants. Ces arbres-là, les scolites, vont nous en prendre une partie. Mais ces arbres-là, ils vont aussi constituer la base de la régénération naturelle de cette forêt. C'est comme ça qu'on parie sur l'avenir.
The future may seem scary as the effects of our warming planet are becoming increasingly palpable. Climate change is creating warmer, drier conditions, leading to longer and more active fire seasons in many parts of the world. For firefighters, that means the fight is increasingly difficult.
Allume-moi la motopompe.
Today we just organized during this morning a small training for a forest fire unit, and the objective is to improve all our techniques and to be able to act really quickly in case of a new fire, because it's one of the key points of the success in extinguishing fire is to be really quick before the fire goes bigger. At this right moment, it's really hard to say what will be the following fire forest campaign. What we can say is that water reserves are really low, and so this is something that is even worse than last year. If we have the same conditions in humidity in the air during the summer, it can be even worse.
Dealing with the impacts of climate change and adjusting to a warming world has come and will become increasingly important. By using space to observe our planet in unprecedented detail, we can grasp what is at stake and what will change in the coming decades. Then, it's up to all of us to play our part.